All right, so Anthony Mackie had a whole interview that hey, if you heard it, you heard it, obviously, where he talked about basically stuff off like from what I've seen people take away from it, like Jordans, the whole word of masculinity, and basically, uh, and the whole success is given, not earned. Now I was like set it up that way to basically do the 3 point. I was like, cause I was like, I only really have heard Jeff Teague and the 520 podcast, and it's funny that Teague didn't get. I was like, Teague was able to get to Jordan, but he wasn't able to get the success given, not earned. I mean, yeah, success given, not earned. Um, and I was like, the other dude wasn't really hearing it on the Jordan's part, but they sort of got it with the success given honor. So I was like, hey, people perspective. The Jordan thing, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Basically, that he doesn't give his kids Jordans, and he basically keeps them humble as far as like what they wear. Because I was like, let's be honest, I think more so now than back then that if you don't have something name brand, then it's like it can't be. You can't have it. When it's like, don't get me wrong, that's always sort of been a thing. But there used to be so many more brands of stuff that was kind of like on the side of like they're just shoes or they're just a shirt or whatever, that I think that you could sort of blend in of like, oh, if you did have Reebok, Nikes, Adidas, awesome. But also, if you didn't, it wasn't a big trip. I was like for instance, like back then, New Balances weren't big in the same way that they like kind of are like. And like now, you can wear them and it's kind of actually cool. Back then, it was really like selective shoe. It's like if basically you like 14 and you decide to wear the Hoka shoes or whatever. Kind of like, it's kind of weird. Like, what? That's kind of weird. Why are you wearing those or adult shoes or whatever? K Swiss back in the day, Dada. Like, there was so many. Fubu back then was cool, but now it's like Walmart. And then depending on how Walmart is, Walmart shirt could be cool. Walmart shoes, what are you doing? There are these things and I was like in life that I'm just like I think that's where he's saying where he's like, hey, I'm not about to wear, Louis Vuitton just because we got money. You wear your damn dinosaur shirt. You like your dinosaur shirt? You like dinosaurs? Wear your dinosaur shirt. That's what I feel like he's really saying. It's not really coming at the whole thing of Jordans, even though Jordans in and of itself is such a staple. That's like, to me, I was like, I think it sometimes can also have a chokehold on people to the point. Like, it's different if you like shoes. If you like shoes, that's different. But I think, like, the whole, like, you ain't it or you ain't nothing or whatever like that if you ain't got, the shoe. I was like, hell, Lupe has said, like, basically, if we teaching these kids that if you ain't got the latest, that you ain't made it, basically. So I think with that, I was like, with the clothing and all that other stuff, I was like, I get where he's coming from. It's like, and not that I won't necessarily get you these things, but I was like, but there is, especially if you're young, that there's like such a status to it. And when you're at that age, I was like, most kids feel like they just like, oh snap, I got this, I'm on this status, I'm like this, I gotta be fly, I gotta be. When it's like, nah, you don't have to be all that. Like, you ain't gotta be out here just looking any old type of way, but you ain't gotta be doing all that, dude. I was like, you 8, you ain't gotta be over here head to toe gang. Like, you ain't gotta do all that. And I was like, especially if I'm not like that, you ain't gotta be necessarily all like that either. So I was like, I think that's the thing where it's all, but also just the fact, like, he, from his perspective, and people, I think that's real, is like, you want to give your kids more than what you had. But I think there is also a limit of being like, just because I got this money and just because we can't do these things does not mean that I'm just going to just do this and it just end up in a spoiling type of manner as well. But I was like, I was like, I got what he meant with the Jordan things and stuff like that. Because I was like, people be out here fighting and stuff for Jordan. I was like, now, yes, you ain't got to necessarily do that much because it's online. Like, he said on like Club 520, but at the same time, I'm like, I've been on GOAT. That thing is just as expensive. Yeah, it might take out necessarily the fighting in the line, but I was like, it ain't like it over here. It's like, I ain't in my rent, but I got 2 pair of Jordans, kind of thing. Now I was like, when I seen the whole masculinity thing, I'm just like, I don't even know what he said was wrong, other than the fact that he basically sounds like how you hear from certain demographic of people, that had a certain brand of hats or a certain color. I was like, that same hat is also the same kind of peel that people listen to on the thing online of masculinity. But I think it's really just the word that got really more that and where he says the death of masculinity. And but what he said, I don't think was bad or wrong. He didn't go any overt way. I just think that it has gotten to a point where it's like if you say those words start flashing in people's head, their ears ringing, and then you stop maybe hearing what people are what he's saying. Because I was like, what he said wasn't of any serious nature at all. He basically said, when he's not here, my son, that's the oldest, the man of the house. I was like, he wants him to be polite, and yes, it's an old school way, which I was like, has gone away, like past the point of even just being like, oh, okay, it's like you don't even have to acknowledge the adult. I was like, the adult gotta acknowledge you, kind of thing. But he just basically said, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I hold the door open for a lady and stuff like that. Protect your mom when I'm not here. Those aren't necessarily bad things, and those things sort of do come with the spot of being a guy. I was like the oldest do get to be the man in the house in that circumstance. I was like, he got a younger brother that he sort of has to tell him like, hey, that we don't do that. That's not cool. Your dad's not gonna like it. All this other stuff. And that's pretty much in his snippet. But I was like, from that you could sort of just say it seemed like, okay, he just really, yes. It's like everybody's like, why can't we just be humans? It's just decency, and it's like that's true. But I was like, nobody's telling their daughter, hey, you're the man in the house. I was like, it's not I know it's not necessarily comparing like apples to apples that way, but it's like, yeah, what is that 15-year-old gonna do if somebody do come in the house? I was like, hey, he gonna have to figure it out. But at the same time, it's like, there's certain things that's like, guess what? I was like, in the hetero space, I was like, guess what? If you hear a bump in the house, you're gonna go get it most of the time. A good 80, I was like a good 80, 85%. The reason I had to have it low because I was like, there will be times where it's like, hey, they won't, but guess what? You're gonna get a little side eye after that. Or it depends on who you with. Cause I was like, you with Ronda Rousey. I mean, I was like, yo, you go check the door, because I was like, I need to be here for support. I was like, once you do your little leg whip, I was like, I got him. But anyway, so I was like, that wasn't really nothing. Now the bigger story, the success is given, not earned. Now I was like, this is where that was over battle, because I was like, he basically saying that your hard work doesn't mean anything, and I was like, that's not what it means. I was like, to me, Mackie means that, hey, no matter how hard you work, in order to still get whatever your goal is, somebody still has to say you, for whatever reason. They were saying, I was like, the other two dudes was over here talking about, oh, yeah, I was like, but that was like relationship to tease, like that's like that still matters. Like, no, that's not what we're like what we're talking about. Yeah, but I was like, that's part. I was like, knowing relationships and stuff like that, or how to like speak or kiss ass to a certain extent or whatever. That's part of the game. That not. I was like, that can be looked at as hard work, but I was like, that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about hard work. Like, we're hard. Like, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, where you're just like, oh man, I was like, I'm the top in this, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, but just because I'm not friends with you, you're not gonna choose me. Not necessarily that we're all right, but I just because I'm not friend, you're gonna choose the other guy, the buddy that don't know. And I was like, he's trying to make it as like a success thing where it was like, oh, at this level of stuff, and it's like, no, this sort of works and everything. Like, yeah, it can work where it's like somebody had to pick Anthony Mackie after all these years to be Captain America. He had, like, yes, your hard work can put you in a spot, in a position, but that does not mean that you're going to get it based off of any of that. He still had to be picked. Even with the sports, I was like, yeah, you may have been able to work your way to earn a spot to get drafted, but that does not mean that there's not somebody that is also not deserving. But guess what? Because I was like, yeah, maybe you got drafted. Maybe on the bench, they're like, hey, you're getting playing time, not you, or whatever like that. Like, yes, you gotta be ready for an opportunity. But if I decide to be like, guess what? Austin Reed, I was like, nobody didn't pick him, no matter how I was like, had hard work. But guess what? Then he did get a spot, and then somebody also still chose him, basically, because they were like, I'm gonna give him playing time. Cause there have been plenty of rookies that, like for instance with the Lakers, that have been there or whatever during that time. He was the one that was able to earn that spot and see where he's developed now. See where a couple other people like Scottie Pippen Jr. was on that squad too. I was like, it took him forever, and now he's on the Grizzlies. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm like, you still have to be chosen at the same time. Even no matter, I was like, no matter about your hard work. On the lower level with regular people, how many times the people you've been in, like, say you working in your department or your area, and you know all the stuff in and out, whatever, you're ready for it to try to get a promotion. I was like, oh, it's you and this other person. This other person doesn't know your area at all, but maybe he knows the person really well. Guess what? He gets chosen. I was like, not saying that person didn't do any hard work, but your hard work pertaining to your stuff didn't matter. Whatever it was that he got, I just won it. Maybe he talks better. Who knows? Or whatever. So it can apply to everything. I do think that you do have to, like, this isn't something where it's like I feel like you playing all your cards right or whatever and you hit it big on some money or whatever like that. That's more independent. But everything else, it's really got to be picked on, like, I'm choosing you. I mean, hell, even this right now with like the YouTube stuff or whatever like that. I was like, someone chooses this video, someone chooses another video. You're in the hands of somebody I think in majority of cases. And I think that's what he's trying to say. Now, that doesn't mean that I was like, you don't put in the hard work in order to get picked. But someone's doing that at the same time. Anyway, that's what I was like. I thought it was a good way. I was like, I do think that when he was talking about this stuff, it didn't come out fully, but he even sort of said that too when he said that he was just thinking about this the other day and it was just rambling in his head. But I do think that if you sort of just give it time, you'll be able to decipher through what he said and able to get it. And I was like, and I do like a lot of these ways of thinking because it's not something that's too far out to where it just sounds like you cuckoo or whatever, or you're like some high level that's like other people just can't get it. Where it's like you got to tell people about how to get it. But I think it's also like it breaks out the normal stuff to where it's like even if it's like it does sort of be wrong, it does give a way of thinking, another way of thinking about doing stuff. Also with that, T did talk about basically like, hey, you telling that person basically that that's given not earn that you're gonna get picked, that basically that same person might be like, well, then what I'm doing this for, and just quit or whatever and all that other stuff. And I'm like, people are doing that now because their hard work isn't being reaped. I was like, especially it's if you go do something else, and it's like, you're right, some things that's hard work can be applied to other places, but that still isn't proving the point of getting what you're trying to get during this whole thing. If I gotta go somewhere else and get it, like a totally different playing field, then I was like, my hard work didn't work over there. So it is kind of like that. Like if you're not seeing something being successful, I was like, your hard work in that is just gonna be moot to the same result. So it doesn't matter at all. It really matters about that person's temperament too at the same time. But anyway, what do y'all all think about Anthony Mackie? I was like, a Jordan bad, masculinity bad, or I was like, are we just all pick-me's? Anyway, let me know what you think. Until then, peace. I'm out.